The first tool is a risk tolerance questionnaire. So most KiwiSaver providers will require you to do this when you sign up because they need to check that you're not in an investment you can't handle. But there is one that I'll leave a link in the description, and it's KiwiSaver Risk Profile by ANZ. The reason I chose it, it's one of the most commonly clicked ones. It's really easy to complete and they don't require an email. And at the end, it will make a suggestion on what you might be able to handle in terms of funds. You can still go contrary to that. It might say you're a conservative investor, but your life circumstances mean you can invest aggressively and you can mentally accept the ups and downs, and you can override that if you want, but it's a good gauge to get a feel for what you're comfortable with. Now, the second thing is, okay, what if I do really care about the environment and responsible investing? Where can I go? Well, there's this thing called Mindful Money. So Mindful Money, I think it was started by a Green MP, and it assesses the underlying investment structures of each of the KiwiSaver providers. The next one is the calculator. So when you've got the risk tolerance worked out, you're like, oh, okay, I can handle balance. And you need a little bit of motivation to work out like, what is the impact on my investment if I go for a balance when I should really go for an aggressive? Use the calculator and it'll show a selection, and you click on that and you go through and you punch in the numbers and you'll see the huge impact that it'll have on your investment at the end. A lot of the empirical evidence suggests the greatest indicator of performance is asset allocation. Now, the next one is when you're comparing funds. So once again, you've worked out what's important to you. Sorted has another thing called the KiwiSaver Fund Provider. Essentially, what that allows you to do is see it in a very engaging way and compare and look at the underlying investments, look at the different providers, and narrow it down to actually your time horizon, your risk tolerance, and just have a good look. Now, once you've narrowed it down using these things, you need to actually look, and this will require investment understanding, the quarterly funds, the statement of investment policy and objectives, and the product disclosure statement. Those three forms by law are required to be on their website of all the KiwiSaver providers. You can access them. It's usually at the bottom of the page. You scroll down, you have a look at documents, and you read through it. You understand their investment objectives, what they're doing. Do they have experience? Do they have multi-managers? Is it just them trying to, predict everything in the world? Or do they work alongside different partners? Do they have sufficient funds under management? If things go wrong, they can cover it, and there's also a sense of longevity for them. So those are important considerations. And then you look at the quarterly fund updates. So each of them every quarter are required to format in the same way, and you can look at the asset allocation. So you've narrowed it down to your 5 favorite providers. You get up all the quarterly reports, you look at them, and you're like, ooh, is there one of them that stands out and is going contrary to the others? And that could put you in a position that's greater risk. So you're looking for the cash, bonds, property, and shares. Some of them are actually making changes because bonds are quite challenging at the moment, but for the most part, that's what you're looking for. And then there's arguably, I think, this is probably the most advanced digital advice platform. I know the founder, and I've had a look. It cost them like $100,000 to build it, and it's National Capital. Essentially, their goal is to help 1 million Kiwis become financially secure. And how you can't do that as an advisor because you make a percentage of the funds under management, and it's not economical to help certain people, unfortunately. So what they do is it takes you on a customized journey based on what's important to you, and it'll make recommendations at the end. And they have some independent research that they do to find the best provider, and they have a selection of 14. And they're actually paid by the provider itself because they're helping with compliance and acting as an advisor, which is really quite meaningful for those providers. And at the moment, there's no cost. So it's worth checking out. The other one is you could check out Financial Advice New Zealand if you want to find an advisor. Often what will happen is the advisors paid by commission, a trail commission for the KiwiSaver provider, and maybe some of them might charge you a plan. So you sit down and have a consultation, do the plan, or they might just take you straight through it. But once again, you still want to understand the fundamentals of investing. You still want to understand what you're actually looking for when you need the money, but at least that way you don't have to go through it all yourself and you got a bit of support. So that's how you find the best KiwiSaver fund in New Zealand. There are other components, but it'll just be dense and unnecessary to try and assess who the best provider is. But at least you can use those tools to find outliers. Even though you're sort of conforming to the average, it gives you a bit more confidence around your selection. And the most important thing is you just need to find a good provider. You don't have to find the best, because just changing between providers is probably costing you more than it ever gains, because effectively every period you're out of the market, let's say the S&P 500, if you're out of the market for 10 of the best trading days over 20 years, that would have a 3% impact on your investment. So you would have had 3% less at the end of the day just for missing those 10 days. So anytime you're out of the market, anytime you're selling and potentially crystallizing a loss to buy another provider that probably you've got because of good returns. So one, you're selling when one's doing bad and buying when one's doing good. Think about that. You're selling your car that was worth 10 grand for 5 grand and you're going to go buy a car for 10 grand. That makes sense. So think about churn. Pick a provider, feel comfortable with it, reassess if they're fundamentally in trouble. Use these tools to narrow it down and what's best for you. Thank you for listening.